Hello, it's Neve. Whoa, I shouted really loud there. Hello, it's Neve, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast, Tits, Tea, and Trauma. Today, I'm gonna be talking about how I went on a recent family holiday with a brand new family, aka my dad's girlfriend and her son, and I'm gonna be talking about the transition of a parent finding a new partner and how that sort of affected me after my mum passed away. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about my holiday and like my recent interests and hyperfixations and things like that. So yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Hi, how are we doing? I feel like I have not spoken to another human being properly in ages because I've just come back from an all-inclusive holiday in Turkey for 9 days, which obviously so grateful to be able to do that. I'm not complaining at all, but I literally feel like I haven't spoken to another human being other than my family who I was there with, which was my dad, his partner, his girlfriend, and her 7-year-old son. Because literally everyone, first of all, I'm the type of person when I go on holiday, I love a little relax by the pool. I love a little beach moment, don't get me wrong. But I also need to be like entertained and I need to have like somewhere to go to like look at new things and like immerse myself. I suppose I like to be somewhere where I can sort of talk to new people and get to know a new culture and speak to locals and, you know, get a little bit drunk, have a little bit of a dancey dance. But this holiday wasn't like that at all, and I kind of knew it wouldn't be. So, for a little bit of context, my dad booked this holiday for us. So blessed. Take everything I say with a pinch of salt because I am literally so grateful to have been able to go on a holiday and not pay for it, basically. Very, very lucky girl, I'm very aware. But my dad's girlfriend's son is also 7. So, I mean, I'm an only child, right? So, anytime we used to go on holiday, me, mum, and dad, it would always be the same situation of like, I'm bored, like, I have no one to play with. When we used to go on holiday in France, I used to have a little baby doll called Jacques. He was my only friend. He was like a tiny baby doll, and we used to go on adventures together around the French, like, hamlet that we stayed in. Like, because where we stayed as well was like so remote. Like, it wasn't like a fancy resort or like Brits abroad thing, and it was literally in the middle of fucking nowhere. So I'm sort of I used to be used to that, you know. But as an adult, obviously, I go on holiday now with my friends, and I love to go out and meet people that you wouldn't meet in, your everyday life, and get drunk and explore things and look at beautiful views and like historical things and stuff like that. Whereas where we were in Turkey, we were in Side, and there is a historical town in Side. I'll get to that in a sec. But where our hotel was like it was just like a strip of like hotels, and in our hotel and in Side it must be, was like 99% German, which love Germans. Don't get me wrong. Want to move to Berlin. Want to learn German, but like at this point in time, not a word. I don't understand a word. I can say hello, great. I can say Schnabennock, which I've probably just butchered that, but it's meant to be have a good evening. Um, so it's not really something I can start a conversation with. I also learned that Germans, I think it's Germans, this kept happening. The people in the hotel and like the workers used to say to the Germans "Tschüss," and I think that's like German, like "see ya" or something. But every time like they left like a place, like we were on a bus with a bunch of German people, and like each time we stopped at a hotel, they would get off and go choose, and everyone would go choose. I don't know. When I've been to Berlin, I've never ever heard anyone say that, so I don't know if it is a German thing, but that's kind of what I gathered. Anyways, the point is of all this, I feel like I didn't speak to anyone, and yes, whilst there was a like ancient town, which incredible, it was beautiful. Like a 25-minute walk from the hotel. It wasn't something that you could just sort of get up and do, unfortunately, every day because it was so hot. Like, so hot. The first few days, it was like early 30s, which in hindsight is so fine because I survived that. And, I'm really proud of myself because when it gets above like 21 degrees in the UK, I shrivel up and die, and I don't think that I can go to work, and I feel like I can't do anything. I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm going to get sunburned. Yeah. Whereas, like, on holiday, late 20s, allow it, keep it coming sort of thing. 30s is where I start to get a bit concerned for my well-being. However, on the last couple of days, it got to 38 degrees. 38 degrees Celsius. That is just too hot. And I tried my best. I got up really, really early because I was like, I can't, because I got a bit like, I felt a bit like trapped in the hotel because like my dad and his girlfriend and her son, it's not my dad's son, they they're so happy just staying in the hotel and, not speaking to people. Like, I mean, they've got each other sort of thing, like my dad and his girlfriend, and then the little boy, he's like 7, so he just wants to go in the pool all day, whereas I get like cabin fever. So I would, and like I tried on like those really, really hot days. I got up early, like 9 a.m., breakfast, go down so I could sit outside and then have like a siesta, like an afternoon nap, and then go back out when it cooled down. By 10 a.m., I was seeing spots. I thought it was the end. Like, there was no amount of water that I had to I bought a VPN so I could watch Love Island in the air-conditioned room. Which, again, can't complain. I'd much rather be doing that than working my arse off for minimum wage in the restaurant that I work in the pissing down rain in the middle of Manchester. Yeah, I get that, but I did get a little bit of cabin fever. I've completely like gone off track what I started to say with that whole holiday thing. But I'm sure we'll find our way back somehow. But yeah, I found my way back. Actually, I was saying that like I'm glad to be on the little podcast because I feel like I've not spoken to anyone. Yeah, like going into the holiday, I kind of knew it would be like that. So I was like, this is gonna be a time where I can like see if I can relax and just do nothing. Because like, don't get me wrong, when I have things to do at home, I absolutely love doing nothing. Like, I love a good rot. I love a good YouTube binge, rotting in bed, like curtains drawn, Chinese ordered, I love doing nothing when I've got things to do. And I love doing, like, not the things that I need to do and procrastinating and, like, just having a bit of a brain rot. But when I was like forced, why did I just sound like a robot? When I was like forced into nothingness, I kind of went a little bit crazy. And yet again, I took my laptop because I was like, I'll edit the episode of the podcast that I've already done whilst I'm there because like obviously it's hard, like I work full time and stuff, like it's hard to like edit and things and do all my acting things and things on the side when I've got all that to do. And yeah, like, I still procrastinated. I don't know how. Like, by the third day, oh god, I'm bored. Like, and I was like, girl, maybe you should, like, do the productive thing that you brought to do. But no, I didn't. But actually, fair play to me. So I was like, right, I'm going to use this as, like, a bit of a health retreat. because there's a gym and it's like all inclusive, like food and drinks. So I knew there'd be like healthy food and fruit and things like that, and like I can use the gym whenever. So I was like, I'm gonna go to the gym or do something active every day. And if you know me, I'm not a gym girl. Like, I have a panic attack when my heart starts to beat after running for 15 seconds. But I really, really want to, like, do something about that, because if I ever get, like, chased, they're going to catch me. So I've been trying to start, like, doing a little bit of cardio and, like, things like that. So I managed to actually do that. And I actually went to the gym, like, we were there for 9 days. I think I went to the gym like 4 or 5 times. And I went for like the first 2 days, and then like I took like a break because we did like active things. Like we did white water rafting. That was treacherous. We did that in 38-degree heat. Yeah, that was crazy. And then the day after, I went back to the gym, and the man was like, "Not seen you for a few days." I was like, "Okay, sir, I don't even know your name. Mind your own business." Mind your business. No, I'm joking. He was really nice. All in all, the holiday was lovely, relaxing, hot. Didn't lift a finger, which is what we love to see. Even though I've just complained about me not having enough to do, but that's my own problem. It was a little bit weird, like going from being the waiter to being waited on in a sense. But I got over that pretty quickly, and now I'm looking if there's a barcode in my room I can scan to get someone to bring some drinks up to me, because I miss that kind of life. But yeah, like I said, I went with my dad's partner and her son, and obviously my dad. And this is our first. Grew up as a single child, so just me, my mum and dad. We'd always just go on holidays, just me, my mum and dad, sometimes with my mum's sister and like my cousins and stuff. But yeah, it was usually just the three of us. So I suppose, and I've never gone on a holiday with a child before. Like when we'd go on family holidays with other people, like with children, I was always the youngest. Like I was the youngest within the family friends. I was the youngest within my cousins. So it was like a big change. Like it was really weird. So I actually like. Okay, we're getting into this right now. I was going to speak about something else, but I think we should get into this right now. I'm going to speak about how my dad getting a new girlfriend after my mum died came about, and how that made me feel. And this is kind of crazy to speak about, because I genuinely haven't. I think I've spoken to my friends about it a couple of times, but I genuinely have never voiced how I really felt about the whole thing. Because when my mum died, for those of you who haven't listened to my last podcast, my mum died quite suddenly. No spoilers, because go listen to the first episode. No, I'm joking. Well, no, go and listen to it. It's a bit triggering, but whatever. But my dad, for God for fucking bid, my mum died suddenly. My parents were like still together, still lived together, still married. They'd been married for, I'm not going to do the maths right here on this Wednesday afternoon, but they'd been married probably like 20 years or something. They've been together since my mum was like, I want to say 17, my dad was 19, and my dad's like 50 something now. My mum died 4 years ago. I think my mum was 47 when she died. I feel like that's something I should probably like know, but I don't want to think about it. So, anyways, I think my mum was basically all my dad had ever known, and their relationship was certainly everything that I'd ever known. Obviously, they had ups and downs, and their relationship wasn't smooth sailing. And I'll not go into like their relationship, because that's not my shit to speak about, and also I actually don't really know the details. But I guess from the perspective of my like inner child and like even as an adult, all I ever knew was like the nuclear family of like mum, dad, me. And when my mum passed away, one of the first things I thought was like, oh God, my dad's gonna be on his own and he's getting on a bit. Like, is he ever gonna find someone? And that was like, it's so weird that that was like one of the first things that worried me. And I was like, fuck, like, how's this gonna affect him? And because like I'm obviously it's a different kind of loss. Like I didn't live with my mum at that point every day. Like they've been together pretty much every day for like I mean, over 20 years. I was so scared of like the possible depression and that could cause. Like grief's horrible anyway. Losing like basically the love of your life, I suppose, like that's fucking terrifying. Like and then the thought of him being on his own and then because I'm an only child as well, it's like looking after dad falls on me. Like there's no like sister or brother where I can be like, oh, like, can you go visit him? Like when he's like 80 and like lonely because he's not found anyone. But my dad actually, how do I say this? I'd say my father moved on a lot faster than I or probably he ever expected. As far as I'm aware, my dad's dating life wasn't the topic of conversation a lot between us after my mum passed away, believe it or not. But like, as far as I'm aware, he wasn't like looking for anyone else. And I'm not 100% on the timeline, but from my memory, um, I think he must have met his current girlfriend and, you know, started seeing her, whatever, within a couple of months. And I remember him telling me I was coming home. He was driving me from the train station, and in like such dad fashion, like in the car, like not even looking at each other. He's like, um, "I've met someone," or like I'm seeing someone, and I genuinely think like this whole situation is probably the most selfless um way that I've ever acted, to be honest. Because yes, obviously and luckily I did want my dad to find someone and not be on his own, but I did not think it would be that soon. Like I thought, I don't know, I thought it would be like 3 years down the line and I'd be like, come on, like why don't you get on Tinder, like or whatever older people use. Like I thought like it would go like that. Like I mean, fair enough to him. He clearly didn't struggle, but if he could pass me some of that look, that would be great. But like, it was definitely like a lot and unexpected, and I feel like in that moment, like I felt like shock. I think mainly shock, and like probably like a bit of jealousy. Not like jealousy, like relationship kind of jealousy, but like just like who is this woman that's like now in my life, and like jealousy, I guess, for my mom, like knowing full fucking well that my mom would be up there probably raging. Like, what do you mean you've moved on from our 20-year relationship after 4 months, you bellend? um, I mean, obviously, oh god, I was gonna say she made a bed, as in my mum made her bed and has to lie in it. So I had all these like negative feelings and like anger and like betrayal almost, I think, of like, oh right, because as the daughter you can't move on. Like I can't get a new mum. Like that's just weird. Whereas you're hopefully gonna find someone who makes you happy and loved and find a new partner, you know? But it's like that betrayal of, oh, thanks, like, now I'm alone in this grief, like, now you have another girlfriend and you get that comfort from elsewhere. Is someone going to drop another mum on my doorstep? No. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Rachel. Thanks a lot. You fucking left me in the shit. And I just knew in that moment that I was just gonna have to separate my feelings from the situation, because the last thing I wanted to do was, oh, and don't get me wrong, I was like, show me a picture, like trying to find like negative things about her. I don't know, so childish, but in the moment and the shock of it all, like, you can't really blame me. But when it really, really came down to it, I was like, I need to just shut the fuck up and let him be happy. Unless there's like an overt problem with the person, I need to let any feelings that I have be my feelings and not speak to him about it. And if I need to speak to someone, I've got people to speak to. I've got friends who aren't in the situation. I do not want to be the daughter who sits there. And like, if you are, fair enough, I'm not going to be here to say that, like, it's not easy. Parents moving on, of course it's not easy. Like I said, you sort of feel a little bit left behind. And it's like, oh, it was me and you together, and now you've got someone else to support you. But I knew at the end of the day, I didn't want to be tied down to looking after my dad and worrying about my dad. I worry about him enough already. So I was going to need to put my feelings to the side and suck it up and hope that he doesn't get hurt again. And, you know, luckily we're a couple of years on now and they're still together. Like, I think I held a lot and probably still do hold a lot of difficult feelings about it. It's just like so hard. Like, I remember he visited Manchester with her, which is where I live, and didn't like tell me. And then like I don't know how I found out that he was here. I was fucking raging. Like, I was so angry. I was like just thinking, like, I just felt so betrayed and abandoned. Like, how can you visit where I am and not fucking tell me and not come and say hi and things like that. And it was also on like an anniversary of something important to me that day, so I was just like, I just feel so disrespected. But again, kept that to myself because I knew that, say I turned around to him and was like, I don't want you to move on, I don't want you to do this, like, I don't think now he'd probably tell me to fuck off, because like obviously he's in it deep with her now, I'd say. But maybe at that time, you know, when things were so fresh, he may have listened, and then like what, he'd be alone, or like, I just never ever wanted to ruin his chance at happiness, even if it meant, like, if it was incredibly detrimental to me, like I was gonna like go into a deep depression because my dad got a new girlfriend, then yeah, maybe I would have said something. But I knew that it was something that I had to work through myself, and we weren't going to be on the same page, because at the end of the day also, yeah, I'm in a really, really shit position, a really tough position. Like, I don't have a mom, but I don't know what it's like to be him. I don't know what it's like to lose your wife. Obviously, like, it comes with, like, I think maybe if he hadn't moved on to someone, I would have been more willing to speak to him about my mom. I think I've mentioned in other, like, podcasts before that, like, I like don't really speak about her that much. We don't really speak about it, and I think a lot of the time that comes down to me, because I, now that he's moved on, have in my head that he's moved on completely, which just isn't the case at all. Like, he and like anyone, and your parent, if you're listening to this and you're in the same situation as me, can love someone else and like have feelings for someone else and want a life with someone else and to move on from someone while simultaneously always grieving them and always having love for them. At the end of the day, that grieving parent, or like that spouse or widow or whatever. But for some reason, I think I do have it in my head that like he's moved on, so like we'll not speak about it, sort of thing, which is not good. His partner, or like her son and her, like argued, and like when that happened, like it really triggered me. And that the only reason I'm speaking about that, because obviously I don't want to air other people's business out and be like, oh yeah, like we argued or whatever, but it was something that really triggered me, so I do want to speak about it in case other people like relate. Cause like when my mum and dad were together, like especially near the end when she wasn't very well, there was arguments, and I am so terrified of my dad getting heartbroken again. Like it's so scary, that thought of him losing again. So when a slight argument would happen or whatever, like there was one point where I was just like, I'm just gonna leave this hotel room because I can feel my mental health like being affected by this, and I know from the way that I work that they will have this like heated discussion and go to bed and be fine in the morning, whereas my brain goes, they're having a heated discussion, they hate each other, they're gonna break, like, do you know what I mean? So like for me, I was just like, I need to go and speak about this to one of my friends who, you know, are fucking more logical and are not involved in the situation, and I'll move on from it, which is great for a BPD girly like me. Like, maybe this whole therapy thing was kind of right. Maybe this whole taking a step back was kind of right, because I went down and I was upset. I rang my friend and I explained to them the situation, and they talked me down, and it was fine. Lo and behold, we woke up the next morning and it was all fucking okay. I think things that have been hard for me though, like harder time. So because it moved quite fast for him, and because I think I was so fine with it, and again, this is something that I've not even aired to my dad, and I can't believe I'm airing this on a podcast, but there were times where I felt like, oh my gosh, like you're moving this way too fast for me. And one of the pivotal moments of this was obviously, I think, so my dad and his current girlfriend, they live together now, but they lived quite near each other, and obviously her having a younger son, he'd already built a strong relationship with my dad. Like, I think they must have spent a lot of time together, but I live away, so I while they were like 6 months or a year, or I don't know how long it was in their relationship, I'd only met these people like once or twice. And I went back home because I broke up with my ex, and I was like a little bit sensitive, shall we say. And my dad was like, right, we'll have them, like his partner and her son round, and maybe they'll stay over or whatever. And it was just way too much for me. Like, at the time, obviously her son was like 5 as well, and like 5-year-olds are crazy, and I'm very much like, I need in my home, like I'm so extroverted, I love being around people, but in my home, I need my time and my quiet and hush hush. No, like, I've always grown up that way because I was always the only child. I never had a sibling like bouncing around the house. I always had quite a quiet house growing up, and even when my parents would like play music and stuff, I would be like, I'm really bad. I'm like really sensitive to noise. I don't know why, but like I just like get really overwhelmed or like angry or whatever by like excessive noise or like excessive movement. Yeah. So obviously I was really emotionally unstable as well, because like I was like just in a breakup. We spent, I don't actually remember, we spent time together, and I know that the whole time I was probably just like, oh my god, like, get these people away from me. My dad as well, like, just get everyone away from me. Like, I just want to be sat in fucking silence. And then it was like storming outside, my dad was like, shall they stay over? And I was like, yeah, it's fine, because like how I've dealt with this whole thing is just like, even if it's not fine, just like allowing it, because I will be fine. But this night, it was just like, I could feel the panic. I think it must have been around a year since my mum passed away, which in grief time, that's not long at all. And like, now there's another woman sleeping. It wasn't in her bed, we'd moved house, but you know, and there's a little brother now, and it's just like, and I was like going through a breakup. It was just like, no. So he took them home, and like it kind of created a little bit of a rift that night, because I think obviously she probably felt like rejected, or I mean, putting words into her mouth. We haven't spoke about it. She probably doesn't even remember it, but like from what I can gather, she probably felt rejected, like scared that like it wasn't going to work, and I was always going to be like that, when that wasn't the case. It was just that night I tried and I tried, and I just was not okay, and it was just too much too soon, and I still stand by that. Like I said, this whole process is probably one of the most selfless things I've ever done, because it would have gone a hell of a lot slower if I'd had it my way. And I don't think that my dad could understand that. And again, I didn't air this with him because it's like not worth the aggro, or it didn't feel worth the aggro at the time. Like if I am bad enough that I need to talk about it to you, then I will, but I'm not gonna put like my shit on you if I can deal with it myself. And so it was just a case of like explaining that like we can try this again, but it was just way too soon for me. And I think my advice then would be to anyone listening who sort of is going through the same thing, is to know your own feelings and, you know, create boundaries with your dad or mum or whoever it is, and just say how you honestly feel. Like, speak to people. Obviously, it's probably hard because you probably don't have people, like your friends are probably not going through the same thing. And if they are, that's very, very unlucky. But yeah, just speak to someone. It might even be better to speak to someone who is out of it, who can say, look, like, tell me how you're feeling. And you can search through them feelings and figure out which ones are like out of like pure emotion and shock, and you'll be able to move past. Like, such as when your dad maybe tells you that he has a new partner, maybe not going crazy and like, you know, damning it before you've even met them, sort of thing. But also knowing that you are valid to have these feelings, and this is not a normal process, and it's rehashing a lot of trauma or creating new trauma, and it's scary and it's very unknown. I just before I started this podcast, I looked up like just to see if other people, you know, had searched sort of the same thing, like parent, like moving on after the death of their another parent. And there's a lot of people on there who feel the exact fucking same and hate it and find it really hard. Like, it made me feel a bit more like I dealt this really well, because there's people that like couldn't handle it after years of you know, the mum or dad being, you know, passed away. And even if that is the case, you are still valid in feeling like it's hard, no matter how old you are as well. Like, it is hard to see a parent move on and have this whole new life that is different to what you knew and what you clung on to. I'm never going to get that back, you know, that family life back. I'm never going to get it back. And, you know, yeah, maybe there was even a little bit of jealousy that, you know, they can. Obviously, you're never going to replace the person. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But they can have a new relationship, whereas you can't have a new parent. Obviously, unless you're like really young and like you can be brought, like, it's so nuanced. But yeah, like, know that your feelings are valid. I've said this every episode so far, but they are. But it's just like knowing how is the healthiest and best for you and other people to deal with them. And I would like really take the opportunity to confide in people who aren't biased. I'm probably not going to confide to my mum's sister about it, because she is also going to feel some type of way about my dad moving on with another woman. But, you know, friends are a fucking virtue. I think that's the right word. They're fucking brilliant. My throat is like struggling with talking so much, and I've got to go play tennis because I'm in my challenges era. So, and I have also been talking for like 45 minutes. So I'm sure you're sick of my voice as much as I am. So I'm gonna head in a second. Actually, I forgot something that I really wanted to say. You know, I didn't think, maybe there is a lot more to talk about with this. Maybe, I don't know, if anyone wants to reach out and like contribute, I'd love that. But yeah, I've forgotten something that I wanted to speak about. Whilst I was on holiday, I decided to read a book. I know, crazy. She's in her intellectual era, actually. She's in a gym girl era, her intellectual era. What is going on? I don't know her. Who is she? I don't know her. Anyways, if you have not watched or read One Day already, what what rock are you living under, love? Because it's fucking brilliant. And I'm gonna talk about that a little bit because I've been reading the book, and I'm gonna like omit like character names and things like that when I say like plot points. Because obviously I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I will like give little spoilers, but just you won't know who they're about unless you've watched it or read it. But when this came out on Netflix, I was not prepared. But I went into it, everyone's like, oh my god, like, new rom-com, and I fucking love a rom-com. Especially when a man like Leo Woodall or whatever is leading it. And, oh, Mbika as well. An incredible actress. But Leo, he's not single. And I'd have no shot anyway, but Dexter hit me up. But anyways, I was like, yeah, okay, rom-com, beautiful lead actors, let's fucking go. Love it. And it's like British coming of age, like it was just my shit. The final episodes, someone could have warned me, okay? I felt grief like my mother had just fucking died again, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like, maybe other grievers will relate, but when I see grief portrayed well on screen, it feels like someone has reached into my chest and touched my heart. Like, it's so visceral. But anyway, in One Day, someone loses someone. In fact, multiple people lose multiple people, so this is not a spoiler. But I was reading one day on my holiday, and I decided I didn't want to ruin the last couple of days of my holiday, so I stopped reading it, just as I felt like I was about to get to the part. And then on the plane, we were delayed, and I had no other option but to put myself through hell whilst thousands of feet in the air next to some random stranger who watched episodes of cartoon Spider-Man for 6 hours straight, like a Fairfox twin. Like, boy didn't move. And I was like, I'm about to cry next to him, and he has no idea. Anyway, so I was reading the book on the plane, and I read this extract, and I was like, oh my god, I've got to save this for the podcast, because it really resonated with me and resonated with something I said in a previous episode when I was talking about like grief and like flashbacks. And let me read it. If you don't want this spoiled, maybe skip ahead like a couple of seconds whilst I do this little bit, because I'm about to ruin it. Okay, so Dexter. I'm talking about the bit where Dexter, because in the book this doesn't happen in the TV show either, but Dexter gets a new partner. So this is where I was like, oh my gosh, like, I've got to say this in the podcast because it fully relates. It's like such a good segue, even though I've not segued it at all. I've just like been like, hey, we know Emma dies. I refuse. She is not dead, but you know, allegedly. And then he, in the book, I don't think this happened in the TV show, but he moves on. So this is an extract where it's an anniversary of Emma dying, and he's already got a new girlfriend, and he goes through this little paragraph and then calls his new girlfriend. So it was kind of like nice to see that, oh yeah, and this might be good for people, obviously. Like I said before, you can have a new relationship with someone and you can find new wonderful things about life whilst also still loving and grieving the person immensely who passed away. It says, but there's something saddening about eating alone, hunched over on the sofa in this strange house, and for the first time that day he feels a rush of despair and loneliness. These days, grief feels like walking on a frozen river, Most of the time he feels safe enough, but there is always that danger that he will plunge through. Now he hears the ice creak beneath him, and so intense and panicking is the sensation that he has to stand for a moment, press his hands to his face, and catch his breath. He exhales slowly through his fingers, then rushes into the kitchen and throws dirty plates into the sink with a clatter. And that is literally what I said I did. When I got a flashback and things, the whole, he has to stand up and, press his hands to his face and catch his breath. It really, touches me. I don't know, I can't explain it. Only the grievers will understand. I spoke to my friend who also lost a dad when I watched this show, and I was like, oh my god, and she was like, I know. But feeling and having how you feel put in something and done so well is just a feeling like no other, a feeling of being seen like no other, which is another reason why I wanted to start this podcast. But wow. Read one day if you haven't, and be mentally fucking prepared for the end of it. But I thought that's a really nice place to leave it. Grievers, there's someone out there, whether it's me, whether it's this fictional character, whether it's the writer of this book who knows what he went through to make him be able to write so beautifully about grief. Maybe he's just really empathetic, but you're not alone. We are going through it together, and we feel such similar things, and sometimes it's fucking horrible, but other times it's not so bad. But yeah, it's gonna be me because, like I said, I am actually late for tennis. Luckily, I think my friend's late as well, but I'm about to be in my challenges era, so yeah. See you guys on the court. Bye.